I'm generally 5 or 10 minutes late for life, not missing it altogether, but chronically behind schedule. It's like I've been classically trained in the art of miscalculating what needs to happen before I leave the house, before I'm ready to go, before things are in order. You can imagine, I'm sure, that this has been a source of frustration for the people I've lived with all my life. All of these dear people have stood at the door, waited in the hall, or sat in the car while I frantically gather my things, put on the finishing touches, or find my shoes. A few years ago, in a flash of inspiration, I hit upon the problem: my estimator is broken. That's it. When I told my husband, he nodded knowingly. Yes, yes it is. Somehow having a name for it made me feel a little better. I felt like I discovered one of those profound things you discover about yourself in your 30s. My estimator, it's broken. So I've been working on it, and I'm like 30% better. Wait, I'm like 10% better at estimating time than I was 2 years ago. Being a mother has challenged my ability to predict all kinds of things. No matter the shape my estimator had been in, I believe there are some things I would certainly have gotten wrong. Like the number of times I'd have to ask if the toilet had been flushed and hands had been washed. I mean, it's amazing. The number of times one of our children would pee on the church lawn. I would have gotten that wrong. The number of times I'd have to ask if a child was wearing clean underwear or any underwear at all. I'd never have guessed that someday I would fully understand so many Star Wars references: Wookiees, droids, General Grievous, the true identity of Chancellor Palpatine. Overall, I did not expect that I would be a much better parent before I had children. Several years ago, when one of our sons was just 2, we were making the transition from crib to big boy bed. My parents had lent us a mattress and box spring, and before we assembled the bed, we had one propped up on the other like a slide and then a fort. Stayed that way for several days before we put sheets on and made the transition official. Not very good at transitions either. During this time, when the bed was in his room but not assembled, he took a purple crayon to the box springs and colored away. He was a really well-behaved little guy and had never done something like this before, so I was truly surprised. I would have been less dismayed, I think, if the box spring had belonged to us, but it didn't, and also one doesn't color on box springs. Influenced somewhat by my interpretation of a friend's sternness with her children, I saw this as an almost pivotal moment in which I taught my son the difference between right and wrong. Social responsibility and good citizenship were at the top of my mind as I scolded him. I imagined serious implications for his future, possibly society, if I didn't impress upon him the gravity of the situation. Crayon on the box springs. This story stands out in my memory because I overreacted and because it represents a way of thinking that reveals more flaws in my estimator. For a long time, I overestimated the value of scolding. I underestimated gentleness. I overestimated correction. I underestimated my children's ability to grow without critique. I miscalculated that effective teaching is rooted in love and example, and I didn't trust in the value of mistakes, my own or my child's. I've learned that my being angry that the toilet hasn't been flushed does not increase the frequency of the toilet being flushed. I'm learning that compassion for myself is key to being compassionate as a mother and essential in teaching our children to be compassionate with each other. I'm learning to take my own deep breaths before I ask them to take theirs. I'm recalibrating for more patience before the mean voice, more gentle reminders before the stern ones, more appreciation for their cleverness and creativity, more respect for the things that interest them. I'm still looking to the future, but I'm thinking more often now about how precious our time together is. And now I'm estimating how long I have to love and hold and snuggle these boys. And of this, I am sure, it's not long enough.